I'm excited to introduce our second lightning speaker, Elayne Safir. Elayne is the lead product designer at The Knot Worldwide and co-founder of Eforia, a sexual wellness and discovery platform. Elayne has worked in tech for over 20 years as a designer, researcher, and strategist, leading product-driven teams. She has been featured as a speaker at South by Southwest, Inside the Design Studio, and the Women in Games Global Conference. We're excited for her to share the tools she has developed for making products not only more ethical and equitable, but also more personal.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. I'm Elayne Safir. I'm a lead product designer at The Knot Worldwide and the co-founder of Eforia, and I'm here to talk about ethics in product, tech, and design. So when people say ethics, that can feel like quite a large, complex concept, and it may be hard to imagine how to apply it in practice, especially at your fast-paced job. But I'm here to help you break it down. First of all, the very idea of ethics doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's actually really simple. You know how people ask, why did you become a nurse or a doctor? And the person says, I want to help people. Well, wouldn't it be cool if people asked you, why did you become a product manager or a product designer? And you'd say, because I want to help people. See, the biggest myth about working in tech or product management is that what we do is just hustle and disrupt and make cool stuff in some race to become a unicorn startup or $1 billion IPO. We came up in this business on the Bible of move fast and break stuff, but that's no longer responsible or acceptable. We now know that everything in our world is interconnected. The products that we make have real social and global consequences. Our product decisions about the smallest digital interactions get released onto people's screens and have the power to influence entire generations. Our attention spans, our politics, the way we shop, how we communicate and love each other. Furthermore, the people who use your product, and Gen Z and millennials in particular, care incredibly deeply about what your company's morals are. They're natives of social media and embrace the practice of carefully crafting their own personal brand. And they will not engage if your brand doesn't showcase your own good values and morals. Warren Buffett famously said, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and only 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. So how do you exhibit good ethics in your products? Well, you could start with the 6 simple ethical principles. The first one is non-maleficence, which basically means do no harm. Remember when Adobe released Photoshop for voice and people immediately used it to create fake recordings for nefarious purposes? Or Tinder's swipe left UI eventually led to trivialization of romantic relationships and ghosting culture? So how do you know that your product will do no harm? Well, some companies actually hire science fiction writers and futurists to imagine the unexpected consequences. But you can use an easy technique called the 5 what-thens. It's exactly what it sounds like. You look at what your product actually does and you ask, okay, so what then? And then, okay, what's after that? And so on. As product people, we tend to have KPI tunnel vision. We track only the direct results of our work. Instead, use this exercise to look beyond your immediate user is doing on the platform and consider what then for their lives offline, for their family, their community, or their city. This can help your team estimate the true potential product impact. The second principle of ethics is beneficence, which just means promote good. This is a really good time to consider what's your company's mission. So at The Knot, we help couples navigate and enjoy love's biggest moments. At Eforia, our mission is to modernize and normalize sexual wellness and exploration. Do you know your company's mission? And is it actively reflected in your product roadmap? The third principle is autonomy, which means allowing your users to make their decisions freely. This means rethink any tactics that involve mind tricks. So social proof, loss aversion, scarcity bias, the decoy effect. An example of loss aversion could be showing a fake countdown clock on your website to get people to buy something because they're scared that this deal will go away. Or social proof would be to display stuff like 50 other people just bought this in your city to apply peer pressure. Not only is it unethical to use people's cognitive biases against them, but consumers today are really savvy. They can easily spot these and know exactly what you're trying to do to trick them into completing. This can backfire. The fourth principle is justice, which means be fair. This also means making products that are accessible and offer the same experience to everyone. Ask yourself, how would a blind person use this? What about an older person? What about someone with a learning disability? What about someone in an area with poor cell service or no Wi-Fi? Accessibility compliance can feel like a chore, but billions of people around the world are potentially missing out on your product because their needs weren't considered. For example, I worked on a pregnancy app and we kept de-scoping ADA compliance work until we learned that pregnancy can often cause eyesight problems, and our low contrast app content was just too hard for our pregnant users to see. We tend to assume that just because we are surrounded by other young people with good health and the latest iPhones, that's who the majority of our users are. That's almost never the case. So how do you gain empathy for others? Well, you actively recruit and you build out your team so that you're not surrounded by people just like yourself. And of course, user test with a truly diverse group of potential customers. The fifth principle is confidentiality, which means protect the user's information. And speaking of things that feel like a chore, GDPR compliance, am I right? But the thing is, privacy is a real concern. Every time you ask someone for their name or their gender, their birthday or location, consider if that's really even necessary. Between the data hacks and unreliable data processors, why risk exposing someone's private info if it isn't absolutely required? At Eforia, we decided to do away with user profiles altogether. This enables people to feel safe and confident to really engage with the app without worrying that their activity will follow them around as a targeted ad on other websites. The sixth and final principle of ethics is veracity, which is complete honesty. We're all human and we make mistakes, so it's crucial that you are supportive and transparent when this happens. One simple way to establish mutual trust is with honest, clear error messages. Isn't it the worst when you're trying to log on to some website and it just says incorrect data? And you don't know if that's the username that's wrong or the password, and you can't remember if you even have an active account on this site. Audit your product and make sure that you're always communicating in the most helpful, transparent way. Tell people which data is wrong and always give hints like, we require your password to be 27 letters long and have at least 9 numbers and an emoji so they can retrace their steps. So now that you know the 6 principles of ethics, how do you get started? I recommend the snowball effect. Basically, you start with the easiest, lowest stakes challenge, and what's easiest could be different for everyone, and work your way up to the largest. This helps you get going and build momentum. You'll also want to measure and share your success. Product ethics may not be in your quarterly OKRs or your KPIs, but if you can show positive results from some small low-stakes project, it'll help you get buy-in for a larger one. And don't forget your company's mission. Sometimes it helps to remind executives that that's what you're doing, and that's what you're doing it for, is you're helping them achieve the highest goal of all. Thank you.